They always had that old school mentality. Go get a job. I always wanted to do something different with my life. I was faced with extreme doubt. I hold on to those moments where people told me I couldn't do something, and it fuels me. I made a lot of mistakes. It was definitely a learning lesson for me. This is why I created this podcast. We're the true underdogs. They might have a great idea for a business. They're just afraid to pull the trigger. Greatness is not given. It is earned and it is forged. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Forge for Greatness. This is the podcast for the builders, the creators, and the underdogs who are forging their own path. This is not just about the wins. It's about the process, the struggles, the mistakes that we all make along the way, and the moments that actually forge us. I am your host, Chris LaForgia, and today I'm going to be talking about myself, my business, and why I started this podcast. So if this is your first time listening, this is the first episode of Forge for Greatness, and I thank you for listening and watching. So, a little bit about me. Let's go back in time to when I was younger. I grew up in East Hanover, New Jersey, and I'm still here to this day. It's an Italian village, right? It's 90 to 95% Italian. My father came over here from Italy when he was 17, and as soon as he stepped foot on this land, he's been working his ass off ever since. He was an electrician, and then he progressed to chief electrical estimator over at Starlo Electric. They've worked on some huge jobs, MetLife Stadium, American Dream Mall, you name it. My mother grew up in Verona, New Jersey, also Italian background, and she took to real estate in the, I would say, early 90s, early to mid 90s. And she's been doing real estate ever since. And in these parts, in this area, she's known as the queen of real estate. So my parents showed me work ethic from a very early age. Hustlers, right? No other word to describe them. And they always had the mindset of stability over creativity, right? Work your ass off, get a job, go to school, become a lawyer, become a doctor, or work in a trade like the plumbing industry or a contractor or whatever. They always had that old school mentality, and I equate that mentality to, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, I'm sure you have, Sebastian Maniscalco. I equate that old school mentality, not to him necessarily, but to his father. His father, same thing, born in Italy, came over here probably at an early age. And I could just imagine Sebastian at an early age sitting in a room like this. His father was sitting next to him, and Sebastian telling his father, Dad, I'm thinking about it. I think I want to take up comedy. I think I want to be the next big time comedian. And I could hear his father saying in that thick Italian accent, "What? You want to be a funny guy? What are you, fucking bots? What are you, crazy? Go get a job." So that was the mentality of the older generations. And newer generations like myself, the millennials, the Gen Zers, we like to think outside of the box. We are more entrepreneurial driven. We like to come up with ideas, launch different brands, different businesses. And I was always different in that regard because I always wanted to do something different with my life and kind of go against the grain and try out something that is not a traditional path. And my father and my mother, probably when I was younger, I might have told them, like, I want to be an actor or, something that just a wild fantasy of mine. And they probably shot me down. They probably laughed in my face, and they probably said, no, just stick to what works. Go get a normal job. Clock in, clock out, 9 to 5. And so my first job, I was a busboy at Brooklake Country Club in Florham Park, New Jersey. And that was at 14 years old. And through high school, through college, I always worked in the restaurant industry. And it taught me some very valuable lessons that I still use and apply to my business. And some of those skills are how to deal with all different types of people from all different walks of life, customer service, making the customer happy. So I still use those skills to this day in my video production business, which I started in 2018. And I finally got out of the restaurant industry. It did not pull me back in. And I've been doing video production and social media marketing through Elevated Productions, that's the name of the company, for the past 8 years now. And I've had a lot of ups and I've had a lot of downs, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Prior to launching my business, though, I was faced with extreme doubt. My own family members were telling me that I'm crazy, that it wasn't going to work, that I would fail, that my ideas were stupid. Now, I took that all in and planted these seeds in my mind that are still there to this day, and I always draw upon them whenever I need to. If I'm going through bad times, or maybe it's good times, I'll wake up and I'll remember my family members or friends telling me, you can't do that, or you're going to fail, you're going to fall on your face. And I'll always remember that, and it'll motivate the shit out of me, and it'll keep me moving down the pike, and it'll keep me forging ahead. So I hold on to those moments where people told me I couldn't do something, and it fuels me. So launched my business. First couple years, horrible, barely making any money. And that's survival mode, right? The first couple years in business, you're just trying to survive. You're trying to pay your bills. You're trying to keep the lights on. And it was a struggle. For the first year, second year, horrible struggle. And I made a lot of mistakes. I will name a couple of those mistakes right now. One of which was pricing myself too low, or offering discounts, or just underselling myself. And obviously that does you a disservice when you undersell yourself, because you're planting the expectation in people's minds that now you're training them to always expect a discount going forward. So they're going to always ask when they sign up for another video shoot or another website, they're always going to expect $200 off, $500 off, or whatever. So that was one of the mistakes I made early on, and definitely learned from that. And I don't do that anymore, because I know our worth. I know the product and the service that we put out there. I know it's worth what it's worth. So that was definitely a learning lesson for me in my business. Now, speaking of lessons, this is why I created this podcast, and the timing is perfect. I want to attract people just like me that are at the middle stage of their business, right? They have a destination that is so far off, right? It's all the way up there, and we're progressing, right? We're taking baby steps. We're moving up the ladder to get to that final destination, but we're nowhere near it. We're the true underdogs, right? We have some wins that we put on our belt, but we have a lot more losses that we put on our belt, but those losses teach us something every single time we go through them. So the purpose of this podcast is to have these underdogs, these real people with real stories, come on, tell their business stories, talk about their struggles, talk about the mistakes that they made, and bring you guys, the viewers, the listeners, value with the mistakes that they talk about. And who should listen to this and who should watch this? There's two different groups of people, or maybe more. But the two groups of people that come to mind for me are underdogs just like ourselves, right? And also people that may be on the fence. They might have a great idea for a business that they typed up in their notes on their iPhone, and they're just afraid to pull the trigger, right? Because of what Aunt Sally or Uncle Eddie might think. And by listening to these podcasts, these episodes, they'll be able to learn from us, from the mistakes that we've made, so that when they do launch their business or their brand, maybe they could avoid some of the same mistakes that we made, or at the very least, maybe they make the same mistakes, but they overcome those obstacles faster because they've heard of it here first on the show. So it's definitely a platform where you can tune in, learn from others, and it'll help you not only motivate you, it'll just help you get down the path quicker and more efficiently. So that is the premise, that is the purpose of Forged for Greatness. Greatness is not given, it is earned and it is forged. And I'm excited to bring this platform to you guys on all these different platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. I'm excited to tell the stories of my guests. Well, I'm excited for them to tell their own stories. And there's going to be so many valuable lessons that there's going to be so many nuggets that you're going to be able to pick from these shows, from these podcasts. I mean, one example, hopefully I can get him on, is, he owns a restaurant, and 2 years ago, the restaurant burned down because of a kitchen fire. Most people, if that happens to them, they would probably throw in the towel and go do something else. But they resurrected the restaurant. They renovated everything, obviously, new menu, and they are doubling, maybe tripling sales this year since they reopened. So it's stories of grit, of mental toughness like that we're going to tell on this platform. So once again, I'm excited to bring this to you guys. If you or someone you know has an amazing story of battling through adversity, of launching their business despite the odds, despite the doubters and the naysayers, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. DM us on Instagram, comment below on YouTube. Just find a way to get in touch with us, because I would love to hear your story or their story and bring them on here as a guest, because again, there's so many valuable lessons that are going to be learned on this platform. So once again, guys, this is Forged for Greatness. Greatness isn't given, it is forged. I will see you guys on the next episode.